that $1 million may be way more than they actually need. And if you're in New York, you know that $1 million is not going to get you through a year. Depends on, the personal situation. The fact that some institutions will not help individuals that don't meet their criteria. Only people with money, only the high net worth people are getting. That's what's causing that larger gap between people that don't have and the people that do.
Welcome to The Edge for Tomorrow. I'm Tracy, your host, and today I'm joined by Jason Van Pembroek, founder and managing partner, and Tom Rice, partner of Fintopia Financial Partners. Jason, Tom, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So you both come from a similar yet different background, just in the sense that you came from high-paced market jobs on the floor to becoming financial advisors, to moving into financial services. And I'd love to dive deeper into both your backgrounds and how that background is impacting your work today. So Jason, let's start with you. Take us through your fast-paced 20-year trading career, transitioning from floor trading to financial advising.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. So I started trading options right out of high school, about 6 months after I graduated. Started trading options 2 days a week behind the screen and 3 days on the floor at the CBOE. I traded that during the overnight session from about 5:30 when Asia opened, and I traded that until our open about 8:30 in the morning Central. So did that for about 20 years. Once the progression from trading on the floor to click trading to computer trading and all algorithm, I came to a point in my career where I had to make a decision if I was going to relearn and reinvent myself as a trader or reinvent myself as something that I could do and have longevity at. So I decided to go into financial services, and it seemed like a very easy and logical transition because as a S&P trader, that's the benchmark for the United States. It's the benchmark for the world. So being that most financial products trade off of the S&P or have expectations of S&P returns, it just seemed like a really easy transition. What I took from having a 20-year career of trading the S&P is that, Tom and myself, we see trends that other people don't understand. We understand, when things crash, the actual reasons for it, not the stuff that you necessarily hear on the news. There's a lot more to it. And unless you are actually in the trading world, you don't really have a good handle as to why the markets move the way they do.
Absolutely. And Tom, same question to you. Give us some insight into your career and maybe some of the major aha moments or insights that you gained and led you into financial services.
I'll tell you, Tracy, it's been quite the journey. I'll tell you, I started in 1985. It's hard to believe it's been 41 years in the markets. And, when I remember my first day, I love the markets, right? And I've been through all the crashes. And then you had the 87 crash, the 91 S&L crisis, the 98 Asian crisis, the tech bubble. Then the tech bubble, what the cure for that was taking interest rates down to 1%. Greenspan did that back then and started a housing bubble. And then I was there for the housing bubble crash of '08, which by that time I had already left the trading floor. I was a 30-year bond trader and S&P trader, and I traded the S&Ps on the screen, or back then it was actually over the phone into the pit because there really wasn't a computer back then, right? It didn't come around to the 90s, late 90s. So a lot of the evolution of the markets is something I participated in every stage of it. I remember when we went side by side trading with Eurex, that it was such a big event, and I was literally on the red members phone putting orders in on the Eurex exchange because I could get a better bid or offer, right? The guys in the pit weren't offering up the bids and offers that I could get. I could get a better pricing on that. That didn't go over too well, right? And then it became a pen tab. So I became the first guy in the pit, the bond pit, which was the big pit, right? And they didn't like it, but it's where we were going to. I don't fight evolution anymore. I embrace it. I lean into everything. Nowadays it's AI, right? But what inspired me, I've made and lost fortunes in the markets, as many have. If you stay in the game long enough and you trade big enough, you're going to get dinged. In '08, I had 70 people under my management that it was the largest proprietary trading group in Chicago. Jason was my S&P trader at night with another one of his partners, and they were the best traders at night, hands down in S&P. But I managed a group and risk managed, and I traded. I was about 30% of the soybean volume at that point on the computer as well. Myself personally, while managing all these accounts, it's where we're at today. What inspired me was actually Jason. He got into a career that was a right fit for him. I traded up until 2014. So that was my last day on a computerized trade in 2014, and that's when it became impossible to trade. Algorithms became, no, it wasn't really a human element. It's just if-then statements, and then it's just written into code, and then those if-then get executed, and then it comes off to your P&L computer, and you just manage risk at that point. So, nano chips, nanoseconds, the evolution became so fast, the human eye couldn't see it, right? So yeah, it's been quite the journey how I got back here with Jason. You know, I I always been trading. I'm a crypto trader. I trade way too much crypto, but that's because you can, because you can.
Yeah,
I mean,
why
it's
not?
24/7. I mean, oh, I'm out to dinner. Let's put on some Bitcoin next. It's like all right, and that thing moves crazy. So we're in exciting times, right? We're in very unique times. We're also in a very leveraged time, and so how that plays out, nobody knows 100%. We don't have a crystal ball, but what we do have is I would call a really nice solution for that risk, and that's what's really exciting about where we're at right now.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And you answered my next question. I was going to say why Jason, but ooh, you went into that
What's not
beautifully.
to
We
like
definitely
about
know
him?
why.
Yeah.
And Jason, you're obviously an innovator, and an artist, of course. What was it that you wanted to bring to the table that inspired you to become
You
a
know,
founder?
I've been with other firms and other companies where, I worked at major banks. I'm not going to say any, but major banks in the United States. And there is there are some unwritten rules there that you have to push certain product towards certain people. And not everybody fits that description, and it's not always the right fit. And when you get written up for helping someone who doesn't fit their ideal client, and you literally get written up for it, that's really what made me decide to just kind of go on my own and be independent. Suitability and having, we take our jobs as fiduciaries very, very, take it very serious. I mean, we are playing with people's futures, their retirement. I mean, we can just as easily as we can help and fix, we can derail. And it takes that's where that artistry comes in. You have to understand it all. And what made me really want to just be a founder and start my own company was I didn't want to have to deal with the corporate rules and the expectations. I wanted to help someone that had $5,000 just as much as I wanted to help somebody with 5 million. Actually, more because they only had 5,000. And what Tom said,
Mm.
earlier about being longevity in these markets and being able to make and lose a lot of money. We've been blessed. We were very lucky. We there was a skill set that we learned and we picked up. To have that understanding and to know what it feels like and to be able to give that and pass that along and to help others out to get them to where that is that they want to be, that's really the motivation and the drive every day.
I know you're passionate about addressing market concentration. Um, Tell us about that.
I was there in '08. I was managing 70 people. I had a huge position in CME stock. I had 13,000 shares of CME Group. I had two seats at two of the levels. I was trying to become a clearing member. The thing was tanking, right? And I'm calling my broker, right? I'm going to say called my broker that morning. Bear Stearns was going under. And I remember that morning I was calling my broker my money was at Bear Stearns. in a division of that. And this guy wasn't answering the phone. The gal that answered for him said, "Oh, he's not in." I said, "How is he not in? It's 9:30 and Bear Stearns went under. How is that even possible?" Right? So a lot of what made me get into this more was that I was really sick and tired of watching people become a number, an account number, right? You're not going to be an account number with us. You're going to be Tracy, and we're going to know Tracy. Just like we have other clients, we don't treat them like an account number. It's a personalized service, right? And for me, the business has all gone to these giant corporations, these big names, right? And you just become an account number, right? There's one that only takes $1 million, right? Only $1 million. We want to service everybody, and to me, that's what lights me up. I know a lot, like about markets. I could tell you where the risk is right now. I could tell you whether we're going to be right or wrong. But for me, it's being able to service that customer in a way that they wouldn't get service somewhere else. And we've taken a lot of clients away in the last year from people, you know, Edward Jones. We constantly are taking customers away from them because they're not being serviced properly. And it's nothing against the company. It's just too big. A lot of these companies are just too big. So we like to really cater that group of client that wants the personalized service, that wants a strategic planning, strategic for them. My motivation for getting this is strictly to help people. I know the past, after how many crashes that I've experienced in the market, and 401ks turn into 201ks. And right now, I will say that the tremendous risk across the market right now is the retirement money, because we're at a level that if you got a 30% correction, that's going to be very difficult to get back on a 30% correction in the stock market, because we've already spent 38 trillion to get to a $47,000 Dow. $47,000 Dow is $38 trillion deficit. That's it.
Yeah.
It's all just been leveraged, right? And then you got 7 trillion sitting on the sideline. So how do we get in the market, gain the yield, have retirement income, and then be able to handle a potential 30 to 40% drop? I'm not afraid of a stock market crash right here. It's a huge possibility, but we have a vehicle that can protect against that. And and we're really trying to get that word out and educate folks that we do have a solution.
Yeah. Jason, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, Tom made a very valid point. And, when you lose 30%, you have to make more than 30% back to recover those gains. And the thing right now is the fact that a 30% correction in this market is not off the table. I mean, the possibility of that is relatively high, actually. But how that can derail someone's future and forcing them to have to work another 2, 3, 4, 5 more years. And that's really why Fintopia, and that was really kind of where the name came from. It was Find Your Fintopia, because somebody's Fintopia is different. For someone that is single, no kids, they might need, I'm just throwing numbers out here, $1 million. But if you have a couple from Iowa, that $1 million may be way more than they actually need. And if you're in New York, that $1 million is not going to get you through a year. So it really depends on, the personal situation. And the fact that some institutions will not help individuals that don't meet their criteria. I mean, why is it again that only people with money, only the high net worth people are getting, that's what's causing that larger gap between people that don't have and the people that do. And that's really just one of the things that you talk about motivation that really kind of gets me going, because I came from a mother who, her side of the family had nothing, and then on my father's side they had everything. So I learned what it was like on both sides of the tracks, and I was fortunate enough to have a career where I was on the higher end and I knew what it was like to make money. So if I can take that experience and also understand what it's like to live in an environment and in a situation where money's not there to help people grow and to get them to where they want to be, yeah, that's a win-win for everybody.
And you both have so much energy that you don't always see in these type of in financial advisory firms and financial services in general. I mean, other than obviously this has to be part of your personality, since look at what careers you first chose to be a part of. But can you speak to the need for energy, how that impacts your firm and your relationships, and maybe the need for more of that in financial services?
So for me, when you talk about the energy, yeah, there's definitely energy. This is in our world, we are we're out there always hunting, right? We're always trying to find the next client, try to get our name out, try to do that. And if you don't have energy to do that, you're never going to be able to succeed in this business. But being that the difference I think between Tom, myself, and most out there is that we're real. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to sit there and, promise you the sky. We're going to be real. And we talk to individuals like their family. We treat everybody actually like they're our friend. And it goes back to you're not a number, you're Tracy. And because of that, we know the ins and outs of every client that we have. I mean, we're not just commission breath. We're not just trying to just, get as much money under management as we can. We'd rather work with quality people that understand and appreciate us because Tom and I both came from Chicago. We came from, like I said, we came from families that didn't have a whole lot. We worked our way up, and we feel everybody deserves that same shot.
Hmm.
Absolutely, 100%. And just to add a little something to it is that passion is what we are. We're passionate about what we do. We chose this partnership based on passion, right? I mean, we have mutual respect. We speak the same language. When we stop trading together, we still get together for lunch, dinner a few times a year. We talk about what we were doing up until now. We always kept in contact on the phone. It's like, no, this makes sense. It's just like I said, it's the right time, the right era for what we do. To bring something like you said to a game where everybody, I don't know what the word is. I'm not trying to. These guys are just they're
Yeah.
just disconnected in some ways. It's you become a number, you become a corporate thing, you become this machine, and you're not going to get through the machine. It's going to be strategic, careful planning, thoughtfulness. Let's talk about what your real needs are going to be, and let's play these things out, authentic and genuine, right? I mean, it's these are two buzzwords that get exemplified in people or they don't. You could tell when you're talking to somebody genuine and authentic, right? And that's what a lot of folks tell us. They're like, wow, like a woman a couple of weeks ago, she's 67 and she's trying to replan for retirement and she doesn't have a lot. It was hopeless, sat with us and, that night, like the text message was, wow, thank you so much. I was hopeless walking into there. Hopeless,
Mm.
hopeless for a 67-year-old woman. How do you think that is? That's a hopeless situation. And then her life completely changed and now she's lit up and she has a lot more than she thought. We were meeting with her again on the 29th and we already know where we're taking her. We already have it planned out. It's if she just follows our plan, she's going to be fine in a matter of 5 years and she's going to be in that retirement that she thought was hopeless and things like that. That's the stuff. Like the energy comes from that. And also, we love what we do. I got into this with Jason because I truly want to build something that's different than what everything is. It's hard to do because corporate everything eats everything up. Like, to compete with Fisher Investments or these big companies, it's a tough one, right? It's going to be
Mm.
we're not going to compete with them. We don't want to. I don't need the million and over. I'll take the million and under. Let us help you figure out a way to become that long term and build that type of partnership. It's very fulfilling. I love what I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Tracy, that's the thing too, is if you can get market return while being in vehicles that mitigate risk on the downside, why would you not be in it? And that right there is a conversation that unfortunately 90% of advisors out there are not having. And it just doesn't make sense to us. And that's what's filled up our gas tank the last couple of years.
Hmm. So, how do we get your voices shouting from the rooftops? Um, this obviously is a
Yeah.
frustration day in and out, and getting new clients who don't know this because this is not what they're told.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done is, we've taken the word strategic partner and really inflated that. We work with attorney, we don't do much marketing, to be quite honest with you. We get a lot of referrals from clients. That is one way that we do, fill our schedule, just like every other advisor out there. But what we've done that's a little different is that we work with a lot of CPAs, a lot of CPA firms, a lot of attorneys, uh, property and casualty P&C agents, commercial lending, mortgage brokers. It's financial services, right? It's not just selling insurance. It's not just selling investments. It's having the people and the right people in place to really have that Fintopia umbrella, to have experts that you know you can rely on. So when you need something, we have people in place. Being able to work with other people and we all stay in our own lane, and that's really the power of it, is that we know what we're doing, and I can rely on my CPAs to do a good job with them. I can rely on my attorneys to do this. And that's really what has bolstered our growth, is finding the right people to work with and then building an internal network under the Fintopia umbrella.
Brilliant. Partnerships are really the name of the game. Um, if not before, then moving forward. I think that's what the smart players are talking about. Um, Marketing, it seems so outward, but I think that marketing distribution, that network effect is happening in large part due to these types of partnerships. Really glad to hear you talk about that. Tom, you mentioned the 201k. What is your definition of the 201k?
Well, in 2008, it was a 57% drop in the entire stock market, right? What folks don't realize is when you, like Jason spoke about earlier, when you have a 30% drop, getting 30% back doesn't make up for the difference. So, unfortunately, for a lot of 401k people, they got bailed out since 2008. The unfortunate part is it took $38 trillion to get there. That 38 trillion is levered tremendously. So when you do have a correction, it can wipe out. It takes your, let's just say you have $1 million, right? A lot. That's actually the example I use. From 2001 to 2008, if somebody lost, when they lost, when they had $1 million in 2008, that $1 million essentially went down to 300,000, 350,000, we'll call it, right? That 350,000, when they made it back, when the market came back to the top, they were only at like maybe 550,000. They never got back to that million. It's just, it's not the way they came back, right? And so now you keep losing and you keep losing with the illusion that you're making money in the stock market. The 401k was never meant to be your sole retirement. It was meant to be a supplement.
Anyone who approaches the market the same way they have over and over again through history, I think that's a red flag. And innovation is the name of the game.
Yep. And yeah, and Tracy, being that we were traders, and we did this for decades, um, you're gonna lose money at some point. There's no way you can get away from that. So being able to manage that risk with products that give you some type of buffer, sometimes a zero ceiling, excuse me, a zero floor, it's sequence risk. When you need that money, where is the market going to be? How much of that do you need? Let's say you're taking 10% just to make the numbers easy and you have $1 million. You're taking $100,000 out a year. Well, if you have a 50% correction, that means now you're taking 50,000. Well, your lifestyle just got cut in half. That's something that a lot of people they talk about it, but they don't actually implement it into the plan. And we also believe that you don't just start planning for retirement at 55. You should be talking about that at 35, at 40. Let's start planning and not just pushing it off to where you can kind of see it on the horizon, because that's just been the way the street has looked at things, because all they want to do is accumulate, accumulate, accumulate for you so that they can do their 1%, advisory fee or whatnot. And that's part of the reason, in my opinion, why these products are not well known like they should be.
So, Jason, you spoke to the wealth gap disparity and you see growing and your own personal experience with it. What is one structural change or upcoming trend, or, you spoke a lot about, your product solution that you see on the horizon that could really work towards closing that gap?
The fact of the matter right now that everybody wants, a Louis Vuitton bag and everybody wants to drive a Mercedes and all of that. That is, I think, the number one problem. People are living outside their means, which is widening the gap for sure. But the primary reason is education by far. The fact that individuals don't know how products work fully or what product to be in, that's also what's stopping it. Because when you're wealthy, you have a team of lawyers, you have a team of advisors. You don't just have one, you have different attorneys for different matters. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're scared to call someone, and the only lawyer you will call is if they have an hour long free consultation. That is another thing that's the problem in this industry, and also with, I mean, it goes into a lot of professions, is that you you're not getting the education. When you have a problem, or if you're diagnosed with cancer, people are surviving longer that have money than the people that don't. It's just, I mean, that's just facts. And the reason for that is they don't have access to the same type of treatment. They don't have the same insurances, and they don't have the same knowledge. They can't eat the right foods. They can't do that. I mean, and it's all based on money. And the fact that there is no education to help people grow and to get more money in their bank account, I think is the primary reason for that gap.
Yeah, too much time balancing checkbooks in high school, not enough time understanding
Yeah,
financial products.
exactly.
Uh, and a fun question for both of you. Seeing your passion about education, about changing perceptions, about unlocking knowledge that only some people have. If you were going to teach a masterclass, workshop, webinar series, what would each of you focus on? What would be your topics?
I would teach a compound curve, a lifetime compound curve. Um, People do not know how important it is to start saving young, to show the results of that curve 40, 50, 60 years down the road. Um, that would be my thing, because everybody wants to be a millionaire, and I've done this at my kids' school on career day. I'm like, who wants to be a millionaire? Every kid raises their hand. Oh, what would you do if you had, $10 million? Oh, I'd buy a Lamborghini. I would buy this. I want to get a jet. Yeah, and it's like, even if you had $10 million, first off, you shouldn't be buying a Lamborghini. And I always joke about it. I'm like, we'll have that conversation after class today. But the fact that if you are 25 years old and put $600 a month away until you're 35 and never put another dollar away until you're 65, you will have over $1 million at 65. That's that's the power of compounding money.
You know those inspirational posters? You should make one with a curve. And you put it over your desk, and it's like you're gonna go to Amazon, but you could look at that curve and what might happen if you go too much. I think it's a great visual.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I have a little bit different. Mine is, I could say financial literacy, right? Because that's an easy one, but it is true. We have a financially illiterate society. It's just the reality of it. They're financially illiterate, and it's not meant to be insulting. It's just factual. And what I would teach people from a very young age is empowerment, personal empowerment. I would teach people to make mistakes, and it's okay to make as big of mistakes as you can and do them early and go for it. And if you don't come from a well-to-do family, nobody in my family talked about money. That wasn't the conversation. I grew up in Chicago, in the city, right? It's just where I didn't come from an affluent background. I had family that was affluent. I had uncles, certain people of affluence. Ironically, now I have families and people in my family that are billionaires, right? But it didn't change their personality any better. It doesn't make them better, to be honest. But so for me, it's the money is not going to do anything for anybody. It's who you are in that journey, right? And I am all about empowerment of an individual and empowering people to make choices that make mistakes, right? And it's okay to make that mistake, and it's okay to go for it. And it's okay to take that risk instead of trying to have people be robots and go through these classes and get an A in some class. So to me, like I view education, traditional education personally, as a hindrance, because it's a safety net for folks. They went, they got a degree, they did all these things in the hopes that that job was going to keep them employed, and somehow they were going to be able to make money for X amount of years and then get the retirement and the watch. Wrong answer. Wrong world, not happening. And AI is going to change that all extremely fast, right? I'm big into AI. We're going to do more webinars, and we're going to speak more to this. That is a goal of ours. And also, we're working with other agents and other partnerships, because we want to empower people, and we want them to have this mindset and this passion, right? Live with passion, right? Live with passion. Set a new standard, step up. Those are all great mantras that we all need to start doing in life if we're going to be on our own team. Because a lot of people in this country are being trained to trust the government, and they are not going to be there for you. That's a fact. And so anybody that's thinking the government's going to bail them out, that's an insane long-term plan, right? And even Social Security, like, is it going to be there? Isn't it? I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knew what was going to happen in 2020. No one knew as COVID was going to happen. So we live in a world that anything could happen. Adaptability is the greatest skill you could have today.
Amen.
Adapt. I don't care what happens. You got to adapt. You got to find a way. I want you to create projects that are designed to fail, because we're so efficient in areas that we're only going to learn through our mistakes. But everybody's afraid to make a mistake, because the human condition is avoid pain, gain pleasure. I'd rather have the Louis, I'd rather have the nonsense package from Amazon instead of taking some real discipline and diligence and having a focused effort towards creating retirement income, or at least being financially free. And I know my partner here, Jason's the same way. We're very similar. We're different in a lot of ways, and we're super similar in a lot of ways. It's almost scary, It's like looking in the mirror sometimes.
I love
which
your
is not a bad
partnership. We're
thing,
very lucky
so.
to be able to
Yeah.
experience it, and we can experience it a lot, even in just one podcast episode. Well, thank you so much for being here. Your insights are invaluable, and I hope we see more of this type of passion, energy, and thinking, and also the way of doing business in financial advising and financial services moving forward.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy, for having us.